Sunday. Woohoo! Erika!
Like a clapping seal.
Golf clap. Oh my gosh. It is time to go through this finish line of 7-day live series back to back. Oh my gosh, Erika, this has been an amazing journey with you. And to all of you who have been so diligent tuning in, you guys all have an amazing attendance streak, and we so appreciate that. So this is amazing. So welcome to Cash Clients and Conversions. We have been going live every day talking about this topic. And I've got here Erika Warfield, who is allowing us to pick her brain.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Thank you if you're joining us live. Thank you if you're joining us on the replay. Thank you if you're on the replay and you're noticing we're thanking you for all the other times you visited us, because we have covered an immense amount of material on what is inbound, what is outbound, how you need both until you become that influencer status. If that is something that you're pursuing, then you absolutely need to do inbound and outbound together. And oftentimes that's not really discussed on this platform, because you need more than just optimization. You need weaponization, you need a strategy, and you need to then monetize it from there. And that outbound component is what's missing. And we talked about all the reasons why it's done wrong on this platform as well. So, Olivia, we were going to continue the talk with how I merge sales and digital marketing, and copywriting is that third component that kind of ties it all together. You know, picking the brain of basically somebody who was in the corporate B2B sales space, helping those of you trying to break into that to land clients that are corporate clients because you own your own business or you're trying to land a job. So we welcome you. We welcome those questions. We've spent a lot of time on that and copywriting and cybersecurity as well, haven't we, Olivia?
We have indeed. And if you've been following us, I'm wearing a psychological trigger color today.
You are. We were just talking about this backstage in the green room, so to speak, about the color blue. And if you don't know this, if you are somebody that has to put together contracts or a quote or an LOA for maybe a prospect, always put your cost of business for them in a blue color. Don't use black, don't use red, don't use green, don't use any other color, use blue. It is a psychological trigger that calms people when they see the price and what your going rate is. So that is the quick big sister tip. That is a writer downer. Oh my God, David Cause, Ronald Rose. Somebody's here from Mexico City. Alberto Rodriguez. Thank you so much. I used to live in Mexico City, when not to overshare. We'll get into that in a minute. But I was 10 and I've lived in Mexico City for a summer. I don't remember what area of Mexico City. I know we were staying in a doctor's house. It was like a two-story townhome built around a courtyard. It was near a park. I know that doesn't narrow down anything for you, but we were there and we absolutely loved it. Got to see Teotihuacan when we were there as well. Thank you, Kenny D. We've got Jonathan Kimbrough from Atlanta, Hotlanta. You guys are having an Indian summer. Diana Aulacino. I hope I'm saying that right. I remember you from Gabe Leal's podcast. And Marcus Tarr. So happy to see everybody here. David Cause is triggered. Love it, love it, love it. So I don't know if anybody got a chance to, we're going to be looking for your questions for this AMA. I don't know if anybody got a chance to look at Olivia's link that she put into a New York Times article. Olivia, why don't you hit us up with a little bit of that? Because this is your show too, girl.
Yes, so perfect timing, because yesterday we were talking about content writing and copywriting and how people sometimes will overlap the two. And there is a major difference, as Erika pointed out, and you want to understand copywriting and how to apply it towards 11 psychological triggers or pain points that your audience, your ideal client avatar may be experiencing. So I came across this article today about how LinkedIn became the place to overshare. So I shared it with Erika and all of you, because I definitely feel that I've been seeing some trending posts that kind of expose some vulnerabilities as a way of content. And it's sensationalizing, just trying to boost the algorithm or get likes.
Right.
And so I want to ask you, Erika, about that. Kind of, where's that fine line with oversharing? Because sometimes, we also want to maintain professionalism. We also want to maintain economic opportunities, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would say that there is a fine line between oversharing and compelling copywriting, just like we were talking about the difference between content writing and copywriting. I got a chance to scan that article, and in this one case, it was somebody who was an influencer on other platforms. She had, quote, overshared about anxiety and what it was like to be an influencer, but she was able to tie it back to a business lesson. In those cases, if you can take, I agree with one of the speakers, if you can take a personal story without oversharing, if you can take a personal story, tie it into a business lesson, that is an outstanding piece of copywriting and content writing for your inbound strategy. Remember, we talked about inbound is marketing, outbound is sales. So as I take a look at that, I think that's brilliant. There's such a thing called story branding, and story branding is all about, it's like copy branding, which is Lee Rowley's term, but story branding is putting the story out there and then pivoting in such a way that you're bringing a business lesson to it and then driving a call to action. Oversharing, in my opinion, is like what Olivia was saying, taking something that may be a little bit too graphic, NSFW, not suitable for work. So, for example, I saw a post out there. I'm not going to name any names. It was a young woman sharing about the time she lost her virginity. That might be an overshare on LinkedIn, because what would be the purpose of that unless maybe she was a sexual therapy counselor or something like that? I didn't get that impression. So unless there's some kind of a business lesson, you want to avoid getting too graphic, but you want it to be compelling. Like if I were writing a post where I knew I was going to be sharing something like that, I would, like we talked about, I'd put my compelling headline, I'd put my hook in the first 2 lines so that when they click see more, that counts as a view and you give the pivot. That's absolutely acceptable. But I think when we get too much into oversharing and there's no business lesson involved after that, you've got to think, this is my inbound strategy. Am I just doing it for the likes, hearts, and farts, or am I actually trying to bring awareness? Or am I going to pivot and teach a business lesson? And then out of that, I would say, as your inbound strategy, put a really good call to action. And if you're not doing any of that, your oversharing is just, I'm sorry, guys, your oversharing is just a form of codependence. So that's my humble take on it, just from what I was gleaning from that article.
Thank you, Erica, for your input. Because for me, when I'm on LinkedIn, I'm looking for resources, right? Like I look for things that are going to help educate me, improve myself in a personal development manner, or improve my business, and to learn something different. And so, I think that's the 3 criteria for content and copywriting is, are you going to entertain, inspire, or educate?
Yes. I mean, I've heard it as brand. Excuse me, I just brain fog. Brand, educate, entertain, or be thought-provoking. If you can write a post that does all of that, man, you're on fire. Usually you're going to pick one type and then another type and then another type. Oftentimes we see people maybe over-brand. I had to do a little bit of that to drive engagement, for this live stream. That's something I typically don't do, but I knew in this case it was relevant. But I have also spent a few years just providing extreme value. So you do have to weigh that as well. Have you paid your dues in a way where you're always giving value so people can know, like, and trust you? That's a term that gets kind of overused because it is true. Or are you kind of jumping in and you're doing the sensationalized overshare, not really story branding, not really copy branding, not really thinking of as an inbound strategy, how is this going to play out? Now, in some cases, that is people's strategy. Go for it. Absolutely go for it. But I just want to make sure that for those of you just experiencing it, those are the things you need to weigh. And if this resonates with you, could you drop some fire bombs, like little fire emojis in the comments, just so I know that I'm not putting you to sleep? That would be awesome.
And, I just also want to remind all of you, Erica made a good point the other day too, but you can use story in an effective way for the emotion, capture the emotion, but follow up with logic, tie in those lessons. So.
Yes. That is how people buy. especially if they don't know they have a problem, or they run the spectrum, which I do train on. There's 5 different stages. Maybe they know they have a problem. They know there's a solution. They know you might be the solution. There's a whole spectrum, but they always buy on emotion and then they justify it with logic. So if you go that route of telling the story, beware of the overshare, tie it into a business lesson, tie it into your solution, and give that great call to action. Thank you so much, my friends. I love you. Look at this. We got Celeste Martin, Kenny D, Ronald Rose. You remembered a lot of writer downers, Olivia. Super impressed.
That's why I'm your co-host. All right, so moving on, today's our last day, and we just want to open the floor now for Ask Me Anything. So yes, fire away your questions for Erika. And, I put a challenge out there to have your questions ready in advance. And I just want to give a big shout out to David Cause. Yes, David,
Yes.
you were the one to submit your questions in advance. So we're going to address that first on your behalf. And then as all of you watching and tuning in, drop in those questions now so we can address it as well. So David, as I understand, so David, you work in a service industry, right? And you provide design, illustration, print, and digital services. And so David's question for you, Erika, is what is an effective call to action?
Let me back up just a minute, as I just got some kind of spice stuck in my throat. Be sure y'all connect with Diana. I just saw a comment that she is there to connect. Make sure you do connect with each other or follow each other. Thank you, Marcello Furtado. Okay, the call to action. Well, that could be any number of things. It depends on what you're wanting them to do. Are you wanting them to call you? Are you wanting them to go to and it depends on where you're going to put it. If it's in a post, right? Are you trying to drive traffic to your LinkedIn business page? Are you trying to drive traffic to your website? Are you trying to drive traffic to a landing page with maybe a download of some kind of PDF? So you want to think about where you're wanting to drive the traffic to, and that is going to be an integral part of your call to action. Maybe the call to action is they get a consult with you, right? Sharpen pencil. Maybe they get a consult with you, David, in which case you want to say something like, and you're on LinkedIn, if this is a LinkedIn post, message me to see if you're a fit for my X, Y, and Z consultation. It's no obligation. You're driving them to the DMs. Very rarely, I want you guys to avoid this in a call to action, especially if it's a LinkedIn post. Again, we're talking inbound, right? We're not talking outbound. A lot of times people in outbound will think their call to action is that foolish calendar link. And I really kind of censored myself on the word foolish. But if it's the inbound, if it's that LinkedIn post, I would really be hesitant to say something like, if you're interested, drop a comment. People don't want to let other people know they have a problem. So you always want to drive that call to action either to like your landing page, in the DM, something where it will be a more private thing for them. Client's project intro for business relationship. Yeah, I would say message you to see if they're a fit and, to explore possibilities on the XYZ that you're offering. That would be the call to action. Usually, if there is some sort of a free gift involved, you will get a stronger response on that call to action. Brenda Meller, it is so nice to see you. Okay, did you see Royce Blake's?
I did see Royce Blake's question, so I'll pop it on the screen here.
Okay.
And so, David, hopefully that was helpful for you. And I know you've got a follow-up question, so we'll get to that in just a minute. But Royce has a question here about what are your feelings on the polls? So how can we effectively use a poll or survey on LinkedIn?
There was a time, Royce, I think they're very, very effective, and I think they're underutilized. And I'll tell you why. Okay, so the LinkedIn algorithm right now has been in keeping a lot with what's going on with Instagram and TikTok. And what I've been noticing on Instagram is the shorter the reel, they're getting away from pictures, right? Just like LinkedIn got away from pictures, they got away from GIFs, and they started going to the shorter reel. On Instagram, if that reel is shorter than 15 minutes, if it's really more like, 10 seconds, shorter than 15 seconds, it's going to get massive, massive, massive airtime. from a lot of different people. Same thing with LinkedIn. The shorter the video reel that you have, going to get massive, massive, massive views. Polls are second to that. Now, here's where the poll gets completely underutilized. People will put the poll out, and instead of making it maybe 2 or 3 answers that are easy to answer and the KPIs are going to be relevant to your business, the call to action, they don't have one. It's just fill out the poll. Maybe the call to action can be something more like give your experience, drop that in the comments. But even more importantly, announcing that you're going to give the results of the poll. Nobody ever follows up with another post the week after saying, here's the results and here's why this is important. And then it gets to show you, other people, your thought leadership. So I think polls can be very effective at targeting an audience. And that all depends on who you basically tag as well. You want to try and tag within that audience, people that are going to be relevant. So that's just my humble take on that.
Awesome. Hopefully that was helpful for you, Royce. So thank you for submitting your question to us. And going back to David, I guess had a follow-up question about headshots. So I'm not sure, David, if you were talking about people's personal profile headshots or if you are wanting to provide headshots for companies. So please clarify
that. Yes. I know I can say this. You know what? We are at 7:17. Let me just segue here really, really quick. Actually, no. You guys, hang on. I'm going to answer David's question. I know my husband, he dropped a post asking for feedback on, do you like headshot A or do you like headshot B? They were his own personal headshots. He got a lot of engagement. People really just wanted to help and said, I like headshot A better because you're smiling. And other people said, forget the cheesy smile. I like the one where you're only sort of smiling because that looks more professional. And so people were very vocal and it got a lot of engagement. And, but the bottom line was leads. And he did start some conversations with people regarding sales from it, remember? So you've got this wonderful KPI of the likes and the hearts and the comments. And did you touch people in a way that maybe they had not thought about and opened their eyes on something? But the bottom KPI is, did you generate a lead? Again, just on inbound. We've spent a lot of time on outbound. It appears tonight we're focusing on inbound. So headshot within the CTA. Okay, so David Ghost polls. You probably haven't seen a really good one that really resonates with you that has to do with graphics. Okay, so a headshot within a call to action. I still am not getting that question. Do you understand that, Olivia?
So I'm wondering if you're meaning, David, to include your headshot within, I guess, a proposal or introduction. I think so, because that makes you more memorable, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it goes in keeping with like when people used to hand out business cards, the ones that put their pictures on it wouldn't get thrown out because we all have this like weird superstition that you can't throw out a picture. And that's why when it comes to decluttering, that's the last thing you do is you shred the pictures because it takes a lot to get over. Some of you may not have that. I am half Japanese. It was totally ingrained in my head. You don't throw out a picture. But yeah, you could absolutely put the picture in with your CTA if it's in. I know I've got one in my proposals and my letters of agreement. I'll have one in there next to where I'm signing off with like my final thoughts and my words and my thank you for them reading the document. Absolutely. Okay. So we're at 7:20. If you need to bounce, we totally understand that you need to bounce. But we are going to go ahead and drop these links. The last day to sign up for cash clients and conversions is tomorrow. That is going to be the first link that Olivia drops into the chat. So we are going to do a chat freeze. You're going to see the little stop signs and she's going to, bye-bye, Celeste. And you are most welcome. She is going to drop that link to the 12-week masterclass. It is a group masterclass. I basically wrote it so that if you needed to scale a business, a career, your revenue, we're going to go over inbound. We're going to go over outbound. We're going to go over copywriting. We're going to go over story branding. We're going to go over quite a lot of things, including different inbound strategies that would include speaking from a stage or doing live streams, or, we talked a lot about the different forms of inbound that there are, and not just on LinkedIn. So click on that link, check it out. Tomorrow is the last day to sign up for that. There's a lot of bonuses and free gifts that come along with it. I will say, as you're checking that out, just be asking yourself, doing what you're doing right now with how you're trying to scale, is staying here doing this an option for you? Is doing what you're doing right now still an option for you? And type in the comments, yes or no. And, what are the consequences for you if you do absolutely nothing different? Melanie is saying, you're not your. I'm not quite sure if I typed that, if Olivia typed that. Not sure. Maybe if it was in a post. But yeah, that's a definite type O. So, and she could be commenting on something in my copywriting. That'd be embarrassing. Anyway, so is doing what you're doing going to be effective for you, or do you need to make a pivot? Do you need to adapt and conquer? Type yes or no in the comments. Outside of that, Olivia is also going to put in the comments the free gift. It's absolutely free. It's a 3-part video mini series that lays the foundation for the groundwork for the exact strategy I use to talk to 50 solid decision makers every single month. When I was in corporate B2B sales, using an outbound strategy, using an inbound strategy, and they had to work hand in hand, because your outbound's no good if you don't have the inbound. Period. End of story. So if that's of interest to you, absolutely click on that link. It's to the Virtual Sales Blueprint. It can be used really on any platform. I just happened to have used it on LinkedIn. And it's free. There's 3 15-minute videos for you to peruse. You don't have to download anything. It's going to be delivered right to you in bite-sized increments, just like this live stream was. So you all rock. I want to thank you all for joining us, either live every day or on the replay. You have been absolutely amazing. Okay, what you got? Did we have any more questions? Melanie, thank you for joining us. Yes, she's gorgeous. The glasses are fun.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I met so many new friends doing this live stream. So I'm so thankful that, Erika, you've invited me to your community, and that all your peeps are getting to know me as well. So it's been incredible. But yeah, so I've dropped those links in the chat, so be sure to check them out. And we will continue for a few more minutes if there's more questions for AMA. So go ahead and type those in.
Yes. Ronald, you are so welcome. LinkedIn user, I wish I could see your name. I see that you have written mahalo. And so I'm assuming you're from Hawaii. I'm not sure, but thank you for joining us. Also, thank you, Diana. Thank you, Celeste. I know you're not here anymore, but you'll catch the rest of the replay, and I want to thank you. And I want to hear how all this worked out with the network marketing. David Cause, yes, insurance and real estate, absolutely. They are always putting that. That's how they've done it. Keep doing it. They are really big on that headshot with their call to action. And it works for the most part. It really, it lends to the transparency, because so many of them, I speak as a former realtor, so many of them are not good. Apparently, well, in the state of Texas, I don't know if you know this, you actually have to take more hours for your education to get your license to be a hairdresser and an esthetician than you do in real estate. Go figure.
So Ronald Rose, I think we've just decided not to call him Ronald Rose, but just Ronald Rose. He has
Ronald
a question.
A. Rose.
Yes. What got you into the business?
Into the business of what?
Into the business of Warfield.
I know. Be a little more specific, Ronald. I can talk about, I don't know if anybody cares about this. It's my story. It's not an oversharing story. That's something to think about. I do train on when writing your about, and your story. But I will say that I did leave a PhD in academia in ethnomusicology. A lot of, I'm going to go there. I'm going to go there because you asked. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? All right. I left my PhD. I was on a free ride. I was a graduate research assistant at the University of Maryland, College Park. And I was there to further the work and the thesis work I had done in Riga, Latvia, studying the music of the Baltics. That's what I was promised I was going to get to do. I got there and suddenly, no. Well, but you're half Japanese. Why don't you study Japanese music? Oh, wait a minute. I thought y'all were woke. Why are we essentializing my Japanese half? Okay. I want to take African djembe. No, why don't you take Japanese koto? You're half Japanese. What? But I think the straw that broke the camel's back, in addition to a lot of Christian students being persecuted for their religion, being ostracized, being told that they were part of the colonization of, other peoples. It was, I mean, they were really deep into it. We all look at the wokeness that's going on right now, and this is back in 97. And the last straw for me was watching them put together a class on gender and music with the sole intent of making 17 and 18-year-old freshmen question their gender. And at that point in time, I said, you know what, you can keep your free ride. I need to go. I'm not doing this. I'm not helping you do this. And so I left. And I went into corporate, and from corporate, I went from a law firm in HR recruitment, and then I went into sales, and then I owned my own. So that's kind of it, as everybody drops out of the chat. Yawn, snooze.
No, we appreciate that personal side of you, Erika, because it helps us to relate. And Ronald agrees; he wants all of it, and David the truth. So,
yeah, it was really tough. They were 17 and 18, and I just thought, in some cases, their parents are paying your salary, and 17-year-olds aren't even old enough. What? They're not even old enough to vote, and you're what? And so now we see what we're seeing play out today. And I'm here to tell you, this didn't just happen. It's been going on since before 97 when I saw it happening. So long story short, that was how I ended up the long circuitous route into being in business for myself. Thank you for the question. And don't be sorry, Ronald. You know what? God is good. God is on the throne. And if he brings you to it, he'll bring you through it. And I'm here. Yes, David, back to Texas eventually. That was a long circuitous route too. So, I think that's the end of it. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We are going to boogie on out of here ourselves. It has been a wonderful week spending it with all of you. Thank you so much. Olivia, wrap this thing up and tie a bow on it.
Ronald Rose, you're awesome. So thank you so much for just your awesome support this week, keeping us going. And so if you're watching this on replay, continue to drop those questions. We'll be looking at them and address any concerns that you may have. But we so appreciate your participation and engagement, and looking forward to continuing. Have an awesome weekend, rest of your evening. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.